Welcome back, one and all, to another special edition show where I, your beautiful and extremely hairy host, am back to bring you another salvo of overlooked, underappreciated, or forgotten albums across prog and metal that I'm very cross more of you aren't listening to. I had a great time cataloguing and discussing the previous load, so I'm more than delighted to be back again talking about the weird and the wonderful. So, without any further whiffling on my part, let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. Or talk about these in alphabetical order, or maybe I'll just do both. Australia really is the best country in the world for modern progressive metal, and Known/Learned, which celebrates its 10th anniversary this year, by the way, is a truly gargantuan double album that pushes the boundaries of modern progressive metal with ambition, heart, and finesse. Across its 2 discs, the band explores a wide spectrum of emotions and sounds with a remarkably solid consistency to its theming and overall attitudes. Now, what makes Known/Learned so remarkable is its duality. It perfectly balances frenetic, chugging, heavy riffs with delicate and atmospheric soundscapes to make for an album that never feels boring or exhausting despite its extremely beefy 2-hour runtime. Frontman Jim Gray gives the performance of his life and really helps ease you into the tapestries of the sounds on offer, especially if you're familiar with Caligula's Horse at all. His performance is rich and emotional, and it's as theatrical as always without ever over-egging it. The album feels almost cartographical in its construction. I don't know, is that a word? A sprawling map of tunnels and mountains with details hidden everywhere in plain sight. In many ways, Known/Learned stands as a criminally underrated epic that deserves to be mentioned in the same breath as the likes of The Human Equation or Hand Cannot Erase. This is a landmark in contemporary progressive metal that deserves as many ears to be pointed to it as is possible. Astronoid's debut, Air, is exactly what it says on the tin. Ethereal, weightless, and pure, with shimmering guitar work, relentless but uplifting drumming, and Brett Boland's heavenly vocals soaring above it all. This album redefines what happy metal can sound like. Imagine Devin Townsend's most transcendent moments given a dream pop filter, and you're getting kinda close. What sets Air apart is its emotional purity. It's metal without anger, aggression, or darkness, yet it still hits with force and momentum. The walls of tremolo pick guitars feel more like beams of sunlight than traditional riffs, and tracks like Up and Atom or Resin burst with joy rather than fury. It's a deeply cathartic listen, spiritual even, in how it transforms typical post-metal tropes into something utterly life-affirming. Few debut albums have such a strong and unique identity. Air is a fearless record that dares to be euphoric in a genre often steeped in gloom and despair. It invites you to fly, to daydream, to close your eyes and feel untethered. The fact that Astronoid pulled this off without feeling saccharine or lightweight is a testament to their precision and vision. Now, it doesn't exactly twist and turn in its variety, but for 50 minutes, Astronoid are more than happy to show you exactly how it feels to be weightless. Okay, you're going to have to forgive my pronunciation at some points in this, so let's just give it a go. A Finnish prog rock opus that often flies under the international radar, Dinosaurus Stereophonicus is a sprawling, experimental, and deeply intelligent record. CMX blends Pink Floyd's dreamscapes with King Crimson's unpredictability, all while retaining a voice entirely of their own. Despite its scale, this is the second double-disc 2-hour-long album on this list after all, the record is surprisingly accessible and quite melodic, and it feels like a true hidden gem of the Scandi prog scene. The production on the album is warm, vintage-leaning, and textured to perfection. Tracks like Baikonur and Olkun Taisi Sinun Malyasi highlight the band's ability to shift seamlessly from intricate instrumental interplay to infectious grooves. It's a lot to ask for repeated listens of an album this girthy, but every new spin does reveal extra threading in the album's intricate web of poetry. CMX proves that progressive rock doesn't have to be English-speaking to be world-class. Their mastery of dynamics, arrangements, and tone feel effortless, and the album's mythological grandeur is a delight for anyone who appreciates thoughtful music-making. Dinosaurus Stereophonicus, despite its grandeur, is but a drop in the ocean of a band who've been making music since the early 90s and are a true treasure trove of sounds for those who've yet to dig into their extensive and varied back catalogue. For prog fans, Dinosaurus is about as good a place as any to start, but I don't know, roll the dice after this one, pick an album, any album, and just see how these veteran Finns can surprise you. Inquiry succinctly made the case. Colin Tench's magnum opus is as charming and whimsical as its title suggests. A playful yet profoundly emotional suite of music that defies strict genre boundaries. Drawing from symphonic rock, jazz fusion and classic prog, Hair in a G-String is a love letter to musical excess, filled with wit, personality and exceptional musicianship. There's a real sense of fun in these compositions. Quirky time signatures and vintage keyboard flourishes are married to soulful guitar solos and tongue-in-cheek narrative flourishes. The album often feels like a conversation between friends where the joy of collaboration takes centre stage. Yet beneath the humour and levity lies deep compositional maturity. The Sad Brazilian and Lisa Waltz's Back In with No G-String are as sophisticated as anything in the prog canon. Now tragically, Colin Tench passed away not long after this album's release, making it all the more poignant. It feels like a last will and testament from an artist who adored music and wanted to share that joy with the world. It's frankly impossible not to smile whilst listening to this. Hair in a G-String is silly, sincere, and utterly brilliant. Now some prefer the posthumous minor masterpiece from a couple of years later, but you never forget your first time with Colin Tench, and that magic was so present and inescapable on this remarkable slice of nearly forgotten prog rock history. Distorted Harmony's Chain Reaction is a ferociously enjoyable modern prog metal album that perfectly bridges the gap between accessibility and ambition. Marrying crunchy riffs, cinematic keys, and deftly layered vocal hooks, the band hits that sweet spot between the technical wizardry of Dream Theater and the emotional impact of Haken. The production is sharp and full-bodied, embracing electronic and synth elements without losing the core metal backbone. Songs like Children of Red and Every Time She Smiles showcase not just musical prowess but lyrical maturity, tackling deeply personal and emotional themes, eschewing the usual esoteric pretentiousness that is so often associated with the genre in favour of more grounded, down-to-earth anthems. Chain Reaction is one of those records that sticks with you. Its balance of emotional intensity and technical flash never feels overwrought. It's a modern prog essential that refuses to get lost in its own complexity, opting instead for clarity, energy, and unforgettable choruses. The vocals soar just high enough to make you feel elated without them ever getting out of reach, and the hooks and melodies are amongst the best in the business. Now, with only 3 albums to their name, and it's been about 7 years since their most recent, A Way Out, was released, this band is an uncovered gem just waiting to be found by a whole new audience. Okay, right, I swear to God, more than anything else on this list, this is the one that no one else seems to have heard of. No one at all. So if you do know this one, then hell yeah, virtual fist bump for you. This is a masterclass in narrative-driven progressive rock. Sean Filkins' War and Peace and Other Short Stories is a richly layered, emotionally engaging album that brings the storytelling tradition of Genesis and Marillion into the modern age. With lush instrumentation and a theatrical flair, each track feels like a chapter from a truly epic novel. What's most striking is the album's tonal variety. Filkins can go from pastoral beauty to bombastic urgency and widdly-widdly prog rock keyboards in a heartbeat. The English eccentric is a highlight, blending playful whimsy with deeply personal themes, while Epitaph for a Mariner and Prisoner of Conscience, Part 1 The Soldier, are the album's sprawling 20 or so minute-long epics, cementing the credentials of this album into the annals of progressive rock history. Filkins' voice is both distinct and versatile, and some of you might remember him as the lead vocalist on Big Big Train's albums Gathering Speed and The Difference Machine. He carries each individual story here with heart and conviction. This is progressive rock at its most literary, an album to be savoured with headphones and imagination. It's a hidden treasure that proved the spirit of classic prog was alive and well, and while this type of music may fall out of fashion from time to time, it will never truly die. Okay, so what on earth is a 70-minute long, fully instrumental album doing on this list? I typically struggle with this kind of music, and on paper this shouldn't have even registered as a blip on my musical radar. But this works, this is fantastic, and Mendel truly exploded onto the indie music scene back in the early 2010s with this crushingly good debut. Instrumental shred meets cinematic grandeur here on Subliminal Colours. This album is a pure playground of melody and technicality, delivering blistering solos, soaring orchestrations, and polished production, especially for a self-made record. If you're a fan of artists like Pliny, Intervals, or even early Devin Townsend, Mendel is essential listening. Each track is sculpted with purpose, never leaning too hard on speed for its own sake. Songs like Shores and Molecular Veil are driven as much by their emotional phrasing as they are by their technical firepower. It is the final track, though, the behemoth-sized 25-minute epic of Absolution, that truly makes this album sing. This is Mendel's Octavarium, his Echoes, his 2112. It's a massive, utterly captivating journey of technical virtuosity and songwriting intelligence that I can and have listened to on repeat for hours on end. What makes Subliminal Colours stand out, though, is its emotional clarity. Despite the complexity to be found within, every moment feels deliberate, grounded, and expressive. Mendel proves that instrumental metal can be just as evocative as vocal-driven work, and sometimes even more so. Rope and Ladder's self-titled debut is a bold and genre-hopping statement, blending indie rock, ambient textures and progressive songwriting into something quietly spellbinding. It's music that doesn't immediately beg for your attention, it earns it, slowly unfolding in careful waves of emotion and atmosphere. Now, obvious touchpoints here will lean to comparisons to The Deer Hunter, and especially to the era of that band from around Act 1 through to Act 3. This lacks the obvious bombast and over-the-top vaudeville theatricality of Act 4 and 5, but there is a raw, familiar indie and emo rock undercurrent that the fascinating narrative floats atop of. The musicianship is subtle but effective, with clean guitar lines interweaving beautifully across dynamic peaks and valleys. The rhythm section is particularly tight, offering grooves that are both meditative and propulsive. There's a clear attention to detail in the pacing. Each track feels like a thought fully expressed, never outstaying its welcome. Now, Rope and Ladder is a grower. It's an album that reveals new textures and emotions with each listen. It rewards patience and active listening, and the emotional payoff is immense. It's a strong introduction from a band with a clear artistic identity and, hopefully, a bright future. The Oubliette is a concept album that isn't afraid to sucker punch you in the gut. This tackles the devastating descent of a man into Alzheimer's. The Reticent crafts a concept album that is both sonically crushing and emotionally devastating. It is a rare piece of music that balances brutal heaviness with genuine, honest vulnerability. Each track is a chapter in the story, from confusion to anger to resignation, and the shifts in musical tone reflect that arc perfectly. Blistering guitars give way to haunted piano passages, tortured screams yield to soft, sorrowful melodies. Chris Hathcock's vocals are raw and committed, embodying the anguish of the subject matter with alarming authenticity. It's worth mentioning as well that James Nelson of No Spoon is on lead guitars with this album, and once you've heard their album of Opus, his style and technique is on full display on this album, albeit with a more melancholic and thoughtful edge. Now, this isn't easy listening, but it is essential. The Oubliette is a masterclass in musical storytelling, using the language of progressive metal to confront one of life's most tragic realities. It's a devastating, cathartic, and unforgettable listen, but above all, it is respectful and serves as a very important message to anyone who's been affected by this awful illness. Okay, now just forget any preconceptions you might have about Kip Winger. Yes, we all know. Thank you very much, Beavis and Butthead. You've got a lot of splaining to do. Those of us who grew up in the 90s, you know what I'm talking about here. But From the Moon to the Sun is a sophisticated, emotionally rich album that fuses rock, classical, and singer-songwriter influences with effortless ease. This is not just some vanity project, it's an artist in full control of his craft. Tracks like Every Story Told and Pages and Pages showcase Winger's knack for heartfelt lyricism and cinematic arrangements. The instrumental work here is lush without being overbearing, and his vocals are quite nuanced and sincere. The album is personal, expansive, and filled with quiet surprises. It's not just a reinvention, it's a revelation. From the Moon to the Sun proves Kip Winger is more than just a glam rock icon, he's a composer and storyteller of the highest caliber. Now, if you've ever listened to his titular band of Winger and thought, nah man, then you know what, I get it. You know, I'm kind of on the same page as that, but please don't just dismiss this incredible solo piece based off of that. From the Moon to the Sun is a forgotten jewel that I'm pushing right back up to the surface for you all to see. And so, there we have it, 10 more examples of albums that I think are overlooked by the prog rock and metal community at large. Now, I want to know which of these you've listened to, which ones sound the most exciting to you, and once you've checked them out, please do come back here and let me know what you thought of them in the comments down below. If you did make it this far into the video, guys, thank you very much indeed for watching and entertaining the opinions of this eccentric old music-obsessed weirdo. If you did like the video, please do, drop me a thumbs up or whatever. Please do tell your friends about little old me, and please do consider subscribing to the channel for more of this weird and irreverent content. But until next time, guys, as always, keep your rhyme signatures pretty odd.